Imagine for a moment the feeling of exhaustion. Real, deep exhaustion. The kind you feel after being awake for 30 hours straight. Your eyelids feel like they are made of lead. Your thoughts are moving through molasses. The world around you feels distant, slightly unreal. Every fiber of your biology is screaming a single command: rest. Now, imagine closing your eyes, waiting for that sweet release of unconsciousness, but it never comes. You lie in the dark. You listen to the silence of your house. You watch the digital clock shift from 2 a.m. to 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. You tell yourself it's just stress. You tell yourself that tomorrow night your body will force you to sleep. But tomorrow comes, and the darkness brings no relief. 1 week passes. The edges of your vision start to blur. Shadows in the corner of the room seem to move on their own. 2 weeks pass. Your body temperature begins to fluctuate wildly. You're sweating through your sheets, then freezing cold moments later. Your heart is hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. 1 month passes. You are no longer fully present in reality. You are trapped in a twilight zone, unable to function, but unable to dream. You go to the doctor. You beg for sedatives. You beg for the strongest sleeping pills modern medicine can offer. They give them to you. You swallow them. And nothing happens. Your brain overrides the chemicals. The off switch is broken. This is not a nightmare. This is not a horror movie script. This is the reality for a tiny fraction of the human population carrying a genetic time bomb known as Fatal Familial Insomnia. It is, without exaggeration, one of the most terrifying afflictions a human being can endure. It strips away the most basic necessity of life, layer by layer, until there is nothing left but madness and death. Welcome to the human error. To truly understand this horror, we cannot just look at a microscope. We have to look at a family. For 2 centuries, a curse haunted a wealthy, aristocratic family in the Veneto region of Italy. They didn't call it a disease back then. They didn't know about genetics. They simply knew that occasionally a member of the family would succumb to a strange madness. The family records, dating back to the 18th century, tell the story of a Venetian doctor, a distant ancestor, who fell ill in 1765. He died after suffering from what they called paralysis of the will and relentless insomnia. He was the first recorded victim. For generations, the family kept this dark secret buried. They were ashamed. They thought it might be a mental illness or perhaps something spiritual. But the curse didn't care about their silence. It kept striking. A panicked uncle here, a confused sister there. Fast forward to 1984. Enter Silvano. Silvano was 53 years old. He was the head of the family, a man of elegance, wealth, and vibrant health. He was a man who loved life. But Silvano carried the weight of his family history on his shoulders. He had watched his own sisters die. He had seen them descend into that strange, sweaty, sleepless confusion. He hoped the curse had skipped him. But on a cold October night, while on a vacation in Finland, the monster woke up. Silvano was on a dance floor when he realized something strange. He couldn't sweat. Despite the heat, despite the movement, his skin was dry. Then he looked in a mirror. His pupils had shrunk to tiny pinpoints, a condition called meiosis. A cold dread washed over him. He knew these signs. They were the same signs he had seen in his sisters before the end. When he returned to Italy, the sleep vanished. Silvano didn't run from his fate. He was a man of science at heart. He walked into the University of Bologna's sleep clinic and made a grim declaration to the neurologists. He said, I will stop sleeping, and within 8 or 9 months, I will be dead. I want you to study me." Silvano became patient zero from modern science. He moved into the hospital. He allowed doctors to wire his head with electrodes. He allowed them to film his slow deterioration. For months, the doctors watched in horror. They saw that Silvano wasn't just awake. He was trapped in a state called oniric stupor. In a healthy person, when you sleep, your brain paralyzes your muscles so you don't act out your dreams. But Silvano couldn't enter sleep, so his dreams started spilling over into his waking life. He would sit on his hospital bed, eyes wide open, and begin to pantomime. He would raise his hands and button a shirt that wasn't there. He would comb his hair with an invisible comb. He would deal a deck of invisible cards. He was dreaming, but he was awake. When doctors spoke to him, he would snap out of it, answer lucidly, and then drift back into the phantom world. He was trapped between two realities, belonging to neither. Silvano kept his promise. 9 months after the symptoms began, he died. But before he passed, he insisted that his brain be removed and analyzed. He gave his life so that we could find the answer. When pathologists cut into Silvano's brain, they expected to find a tumor or inflammation or perhaps a viral infection. Instead, they found holes. His brain tissue looked like a sponge. It was riddled with microscopic gaps where neurons used to be. But strangely, the damage wasn't everywhere. It was concentrated in one very specific, walnut-sized area in the center of the brain. To understand what killed Silvano, we have to talk about the most dangerous discovery in modern biology, the prion. Most diseases we know are caused by life forms. Bacteria are alive, parasites are alive, even viruses have genetic material that mimic life. But a prion is a ghost. Inside your body right now, you have billions of proteins. Think of them like origami. They are long strings of amino acids that fold themselves into complex 3D shapes. When they fold correctly, they become tools, building muscles, transporting oxygen, sending signals. But sometimes, due to a genetic error, a protein folds wrong. In Silvano's case, a single mutation in the PRNP gene, specifically at codon 178, caused a specific protein to twist into a rigid, jagged shape. This is the prion. If this was just one broken protein, it wouldn't matter. Your body would clean it up. But prions have a terrifying superpower. They are infectious. Imagine a zombie movie. If a zombie bites a human, the human becomes a zombie. Prions work the same way, but on a molecular level. When a twisted prion touches a normal, healthy protein, it forces the healthy protein to snap into the same twisted shape. One bad protein converts 2, 2 convert 4, 4 convert 8. It is a chain reaction of destruction that cannot be stopped. And here is why they are so scary. Prions are nearly indestructible. You can boil them in water and they won't denature. You can blast them with radiation and they stay intact. You can soak them in formaldehyde and they remain infectious. They are not alive, so they cannot be killed. In the case of fatal familial insomnia, these prions accumulate in the brain, clumping together like trash blocking a street. They choke the neurons. The cells die, leaving behind those sponge-like holes. But they don't just kill any cells. They target the thalamus. The thalamus is arguably the most underappreciated part of your brain. Deep in the center of your skull, it acts as the grand central station of your nervous system. Almost every piece of data coming from your world, what you see, hear, touch, and taste, has to pass through the thalamus before it reaches your conscious mind. It filters the noise. It decides what is important. But it has another critical job. It controls the rhythm of sleep. When you lay your head on the pillow, the thalamus begins to generate a specific electrical pattern called sleep spindles. These spindles act like a blockade. They shut the gates to the sensory world. They tell the rest of the brain, stop listening to the ears, stop looking through the eyes. It is time to go offline. Without the thalamus, the gates never close. In patients like Silvano, the prions eat away the thalamus almost completely. The result is that the brain is permanently shoved into the on position. Imagine you are in a room with a TV blasting at full volume, strobe lights flashing, and people screaming. You want to sleep, but you can't turn it off. Now imagine that feeling lasting for 6 months.
The brain is bombarded with sensory data 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It never gets a moment of silence. It creates a state of hyperarousal. This is why Silvano's pupils were pinned. This is why his heart raced. His body was stuck in a permanent fight-or-flight mode, panicked by the inability to shut down. The descent into darkness is not instant. It is a slow, agonizing slide that doctors have categorized into 4 distinct stages. Stage 1. Progressive insomnia. This typically lasts about 4 months. It starts deceptive and mild. Maybe you take a while to fall asleep. But then, the panic attacks begin. Sudden, unprovoked terror. You start sweating, gallons of sweat soaking your clothes. Your voice might become hoarse. You realize something is fundamentally wrong with your internal thermostat. Stage 2. The hallucinations. This lasts about 5 months. The sleep deprivation is now severe. The barrier between dream and reality collapses. Patients start seeing things that aren't there. They might see their room filling with water or strange insects crawling on the walls. They develop paranoia. They cling to consciousness because they are terrified of the twilight state, but they are too exhausted to stay awake. Stage 3. Complete weight loss. This lasts about 3 months. The body, unable to rest and recharge, begins to consume itself. The metabolism goes haywire. Patients lose 20, 30, even 40 pounds rapidly. They begin to look like skeletons. They lose control over their bladder and bowels. They are physically disintegrating. Yet, and this is the cruelest part, their higher cognitive functions often remain intact. They know exactly what is happening to them. Stage 4. Dementia and silence. This is the final 6 months. The patient stops responding to the outside world. They enter the oniric stupor completely. They might lie in bed, muttering to loved ones who died years ago. They might reach out to touch invisible objects. Finally, the brain damage becomes so severe that the autonomic functions fail. The brain forgets how to tell the lungs to breathe. It forgets how to tell the heart to beat. And then, finally, they sleep. Is there any hope? For decades, the answer was a flat, brutal no. FFI was considered a death sentence. If you carried the mutation, your fate was sealed. But recently, the narrative has started to shift. In 2011, a woman named Sonia Vallabh watched her mother die of a mysterious, rapid decline. It turned out to be a prion disease. Sonia got tested and found out she carried the same genetic mutation. The clock was ticking for her. Instead of accepting her fate, Sonia and her husband quit their jobs. They went back to school. They became scientists specifically to cure this disease. They are currently working at the Broad Institute, arguably the top genomic research center in the world. Their goal is radical but brilliant. Since we can't kill the prions, they want to stop them from ever being built. They are developing a technology called antisense oligonucleotides. Essentially, they are trying to delete the blueprint for the prion protein from the brain. If the brain doesn't make the protein can't fold wrong. If it can't fold wrong, the disease never starts. It is a race against time. A race between human ingenuity and a biological glitch that has killed for centuries. We spend 1/3 of our lives asleep. We often resent it. We think of sleep as a waste of time we could spend working, scrolling, or living. We drink coffee to fight it. We stay up late to avoid it. But fatal familial insomnia teaches us a humbling lesson. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not a choice. It is the very foundation of our existence. It is the nightly maintenance that keeps the machinery of our mind from tearing itself apart. The human body is resilient. We can survive broken bones, infections, and starvation, but change the shape of one microscopic protein, and everything we are dissolves into madness. So tonight, when you turn off the lights, when you pull up the covers, and when you feel that heavy, warm darkness finally pull you under, be grateful. Because for a rare, cursed few, that darkness is a paradise they would give anything to visit one last time. If this deep dive kept you awake, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We have more stories of the body's darkest limits coming soon. I'm Siamuu. Sweet dreams.